Hello, today I'm going to go over greenhouse gases lecture. So this is just the basics of greenhouse gases and how they increase the amount of heat in the atmosphere. So we have our first diagram and we have solar radiation from the sun coming in. And you'll see that some of it says absorbed or reflected. So if the light is reflected, it just bounces back out into space, nothing happens. If it's absorbed, it's going to release some energy. All right. Incoming solar radiation can get reflected by the atmosphere or the surface, keeping its energy. Solar radiation can also be absorbed by either the atmosphere or the surface. So when this incoming radiation comes in, molecules within the atmosphere can absorb it, or it can just get absorbed by the ground or the ocean, whatever it hits on the surface. And then down here, what we see is in yellow, you see the reflected light, right? It just hits the surface and bounces off. Maybe it's hitting ice or snow and just reflected back out into space. But when it's absorbed by the ground, it's re-emitted as infrared. And this is important. So if it's absorbed in the atmosphere or the surface, it's going to be, that energy is released, it's re-emitted as infrared. When the atmosphere or surface absorb the solar radiation, it is re-emitted as infrared radiation. This is what we feel as heat. So when you feel the heat coming off of the ground, that's infrared radiation. But the important part is when this infrared radiation gets up into the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere absorb this infrared radiation and scatter it in all directions. So you see here, it's hitting the greenhouse gases, and those greenhouse gases now scatter that infrared radiation, the heat, in all directions. That's why the atmosphere heats up, and that's why the atmosphere is heating up, because we're putting more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Very simple. This is now extra heat in the atmosphere. And these are some of the greenhouse gases up here, some of the common ones. Now let's look down here. Greenhouse gases are larger than other gases in the atmosphere. So we see each of these greenhouse gases, you see they have at least 3 parts to them, like 2 nitrogen, 1 oxygen. 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. So they at least have 3 parts. Other gases like oxygen, O2, they only have 2 parts. Or nitrogen, N2, it only has 2 parts. They're not big enough to absorb that infrared radiation and scatter it. It's just these larger ones, 3 atoms and larger. The larger size allows them to move in more directions and absorb the infrared radiation. So just the fact that they have more ways that they can vibrate allows them to pick up this extra energy and then scatter it through the atmosphere. Okay, hope this helps. And if you have any questions, let me know.